Ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, welcome into Fantasy Football University, FFU, coming at you yet again in the off season, coming right out of the divisional round of the playoffs. Boy, what a divisional round. I'm Mr. Bildakusas. I'm here with Mr. Tom Lang. Mr. Lang, how are you doing, sir?
I'm doing okay. I'm doing well. I'm happy that Mr. Hallball signed with the Giants for 5 years, but I'm not happy that I went 0 for 4 this weekend in my betting world. I know I technically should have went 2 for 4, but I went against some of my bets. So
Okay.
it is what
Okay.
it is.
Yeah, we'll get into some of that. And welcome in everybody. As you guys can tell, we have a really interesting show for you guys today. You guys can tell by the title. And we're deviating slightly with what we had mentioned last week. We're going to get into our first controversial topics episode. However, it is not the Shador situation. We'll get to that later in the offseason. We are absolutely going to be reacting to the situation that happens most relevantly in the Bills game, and that's prompted us to talk about is the NFL rigged? Bad coaching, bad officiating, bad calls, etc. We're gonna get into all of that today, man. And I have very strong opinions. Tommy has strong opinions. We're going to be arguing quite a bit. So welcome,
Yeah.
in, welcome in. We're happy to have you guys with us. But let's get into some of the most recent news first. We've got the list here of the most recent stuff. You know what? Let's just kick it off. So John Harbaugh signs with the Giants. No surprises there. We saw that coming from a mile away. I know you're happy. Do you think the Giants could start competing next year?
I think this is what they need. They need, and I said this a couple weeks ago. The Giants need a coach just like Tom Coughlin. John Harbaugh is that guy. If not, he may be a better coach than him. So I think that the Giants maybe I'm not saying playoff bound next year. I think there's going to be a lot of things they have to work on as a team and to make sure they have the right pieces and also the right coaching staff involved. But again, anything could really happen in this division. The division is not as locked in as it seems. The Eagles fell apart throughout the rest of the season, late in the season, and the Cowboys. I don't know. They have a great offense, but they have no defense. So we'll see what happens in this offseason. I think that there's going to be some money that needs to be spent. I know the Giants are pretty. Uh, Low with cap room, so things need to be changed up a little bit. But I do think that they have a lot of pieces on that defense and also on that young offense that can, if stay healthy, it could be a bright season.
I, I I hope so. There's a lot of players on that team that are really exciting.
Yeah,
Two
and
of
so many fantasy relevant players that can really do wonders next year.
Now two of them have to come back from injury, and I know you're more worried about one of them than the other one.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
more worried about Malik Neighbors than I actually am as Cam Scattaboo. But I think it's all gonna be fine. The actual season's not even over yet, and there's a whole big off season. So Malik Neighbors obviously got hurt early in the season with the torn ACL, and I think he'll be back fine. So
okay, I'm excited about them.
yeah,
Let's talk about what, in my opinion, was 1A, 1B, like the next best coach to be that was on the market. So Kevin Stefanski has now been hired by the Atlanta Falcons after firing Raheem Morris. We already kind of talked about the Raheem Morris situation. Both Tommy and I both felt like we didn't exactly think Raheem Morris should have been let go. That being said, they've got Kevin Stefanski, and we both really like Kevin Stefanski as a coach. We think that Kevin Stefanski partially got let go from Cleveland because of the Shador and Deshaun Watson situation, which we'll
yeah.
get into a little later in the offseason. I think that the Atlanta Falcons can go ahead and win the division next year. I've been unimpressed with the other teams in that division.
Well,
Uh,
yeah. I mean, when you're barely breaking 500 every single year, I mean, one team is gonna come 2 games ahead, and I think the Falcons have the pieces to do so.
Do you think that if you were Kevin Stefanski, would you have, in hindsight, would you have rather been the Bills head coach, but like he got hired before the Sean McDermott situation?
Well, I think we should save that for a little bit because I still have a really bad taste in my mouth for that firing. And I don't think it was because of the team conditions or anything like that. I think comes to a point where you got to speak up and stop taking so much crap from people, even those big money guys up there, and we may start getting cease and assist letters. But I'll tell you something right now.
I have opinions.
Um,
I have opinions about that too. Yeah.
yeah,
I think we were probably lockstep there
yeah.
about that stuff. So the Detroit Lions have hired their next offensive coordinator. They hired the uh last year's Arizona's offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing. Um, I think I'm hit and miss with this. I was expecting Mike McDaniels to go there, but I guess that didn't work out. Drew Petzing, like him or hate him, he made it work with Jacoby Brissett in a way that he could never make it work with Kyler Murray. But it's maybe we should just be start being anti Kyler Murray. So,
Yeah.
um, I have good, hopes for the Lions for next year. They need to, turn the page and actually get back to what they used to be doing, dominating everybody on offense. So maybe he can do it.
And
It's
again, it's probably one of the toughest divisions in the league, outside of the NFC West right now.
Yeah, you're probably right. It's not the sexiest name. Like it's not Cliff Kingsbury. It's not Mike McDaniel, but
No,
if
but
it works, it works.
if it works and gets the job done, that's what's needed.
Okay. So there is one other thing I wanted to mention. It might not have made the big headlines, but Eric Bieniemy has returned as the offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs.
I think that's the smartest thing that I've ever seen, actually. A guy that
Yeah,
was basically the running back coach after being a tremendous, tremendous offensive coordinator. I mean, come on.
yeah. Let's just sit on this just for a second because this is a controversial thing for a lot of years leading up to it. Let's just lay it out. So for a lot of years, for every single year that Patrick Mahomes has had been the starter up until before Eric Bieniemy was let go. Eric Bieniemy was the offensive coordinator, and according to the media slash everything, Eric Bieniemy was never getting the credit he had that he deserved because it was Eric Bieniemy under Andy Reid and Andy Reid's system and Andy Reid's situation. Here's the reality for everybody who's listening. Nobody actually knows what percentage it was of Bieniemy, how much of it was Andy Reid's vision. We don't know. But I know that while Eric Bieniemy was there, everything was better than what it
Well,
was since then.
actually, I mean, if you look at years, right? So you look at what happened last year, with what's his name, the ex
Matt Nagy became the
Matt
OC.
Nagy.
Right.
Yeah, he could the ex Bears coach. I mean, you got to look at it from this perspective. Did the offense run smooth last year?
No.
Matt Nagy was the offensive coordinator twice in Patrick Mahomes' career, right? I don't think I think it's very clear when the season runs smoothly with a player with a coach and a player, and then he makes a lateral move to Bieniemy goes to Washington as a offense coordinator. Then they fire him the next year to get
It
what you
was
call
it,
it.
it was such a
It
such
just
a
doesn't
weird
make any
thing.
sense. So keep the guy that basically, even if and I think maybe like the big thing why he made that laterals change is because he wanted to get out of the spotlight
Prove
of
the point for everybody who wasn't saying it what he
correct.
wasn't the
But
guy or whatever.
the thing, and didn't he do well? Right?
Well, here's another thing. Do you remember this story that, he goes into Washington and then a couple weeks go by and then we start hearing stories that he's having trouble getting along with the players because the players are saying that he's being too hard on them, that he's coaching them like he's too, vicious with them. I'm like, this is the NFL. You guys are adults. You don't like Eric Bieniemy shouting at you and telling you where you got to line up and what you got to do. Get over yourself.
And to make you a better player. Come
Yeah,
on.
and this was before Washington was good, and then Daniels came in. So, like, I have no sympathy for what happened there in Washington. He was unceremoniously dismissed after he shouldn't have been. Now, look, again, I'm not claiming that Eric Bieniemy is the mastermind of everything that happened before he left Kansas City, but like you just pointed out, uh, the Chiefs have had a bad offense for 3 straight years. Let's say bad, let's say mediocre. It's bad by their standards of being Patrick Mahomes, the best offense ever. They've been bad for 3 years. Eric Bieniemy has not been the offensive coordinator for 3 years there. I think it's a better pairing, him and Andy Reid. They work better together. And depending on how they retool a little bit, maybe they get a little more explosion on offense. Maybe they get, Brees Hall or something as a running back, Ken Walker or something, a little bit more explosion. I have high hopes for the Chiefs for next year.
Yeah.
Maybe Travis Kelce can finally retire. So,
I
well,
think it's time.
yeah, we'll talk about the Chiefs a little bit more today, given the topic. But I definitely wanted to touch upon that. So any other coaching little news and notes you wanted to mention? I mean, we're still waiting on the.
No new coaching news that I want to talk about, but I will say some big breaking news that happened yesterday was Zach Charbonnet did suffer his
That's right.
torn ACL. So now we got Ken Glass Walker back as RB1 and RB1 and RB1. And does that stand this week? At week technically 19, or for them, 19 playing weeks. I don't know if Ken Walker survives this week.
Maybe, maybe not. It's a weird thing to start predicting or rooting for it. We're not. That's not what we're saying. But we will.
No, we are not rooting for it. We're just looking at the
No.
logistics that have happened the past couple of years.
I mean, God bless Ken Walker. He figured out how to run straight and run north south in the past game, and he looked great. We said it the whole year. He is the better back, but functionally, he just wasn't performing as such. And now he's
Yeah,
actually running in the right direction, and it's looking better. So with Charbonnet, he's not going to be ready for next season. Ken Walker's a free agent after this year. I think it would be a mistake if Seattle lets him go because I think he works well with them. He's going to be a good back for them, and they need him. But there's a chance he could end up on the Chiefs or the Saints or something. Those are the two spots that we're seeing. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. And maybe Charbonnet eventually makes a comeback at some point. You know,
maybe.
I know he was a darling of yours. Yeah, just a couple other quick notes, and then we'll jump to Sean McDermott. So the Raiders have yet to fill in their oh, sorry. I should have mentioned the Titans have filled in their head coaching spot as well. Robert Saleh has signed as
Yeah.
the head coach of the Tennessee Titans.
It gets round two.
Round two after being unceremoniously, horrifically dismissed from the worst team in the NFL ever in the history of the NFL, the New York Football Jets.
That's what you get with Woody Johnson.
I know. Don't even. I could do a whole episode on Woody Johnson. So God bless Robert Saleh. Maybe Cam Ward's ready to take another step. We started liking what we saw as the the last third of the season was happening. They got a lot of young talent there. The coolest receiver names we said all year: Ellick Io Manor, Kamara DK, and then of course Cam Ward thrown to them. We'll see if they have some success. And then we like Robert Saleh. He's a good guy. But yeah, no, we have yet to fill in the Raiders head coaching position.
I'm
And
just honestly, I'm just surprised that Robert Saleh just didn't stay as the defensive coordinator, and then the 49ers just brought back Mike McDaniel and just went back to basics.
we've talked about this before. You're of the opinion that they should pay really good offensive and defensive coordinators more to
Yeah,
incentivize them to stay as such.
I think that's the
Right.
smartest thing to do. I mean, honestly, you could cut maybe one of these big, and you're not talking about big money of taking away money from a big name player, but like cut one of these, if it's a salary cap element, take one of these players that you don't that are not necessarily needed as a safety, magnet, whatever, and just throw, basically pay the coach,
Right.
pay the guys that basically are coaching the guys that to perform. I mean, it's been clear this year outside of the Seahawks game that the 49ers defense that didn't have any names that anybody knew on their defense actually was able to perform and to beat some of these teams whenever it was the last man standing basically. So
That's right.
you have a good coach, the coach can, and these guys are pros, right? They should be able to perform at a high level. So if they're being coached right and they're strategically schemed right, they should be able to make plays on the ball and win games.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. So we'll see how much success he has.
As Bill Belichick used to say and always says, do your job.
Do your job. Yeah. One other quick offensive coordinator thing, news to mention. So the Buccaneers offensive coordinator has been let go. So this will be like the 38th straight year in a row that Baker Mayfield has a different offensive system that he's going to have to learn. I'm going to keep an eye on the offseason for whatever surgery or something Baker goes through, because clearly he was a different player for the second half of the year. And obviously they thought their offense was bad in general, so they let go their offensive coordinator. So it'll be interesting to see who they replace him with. We'll keep an eye on that. So Tommy, I want to get into the Sean McDermott news here, and I just want to mention I wanted to parlay that with something that'll hit close to home for you. So uh, whether or not the larger picture of if people thought Brian Daboll need to get fired, let's just put on the side for a second. Who is the person who forced them to draft Jackson Dart and campaigned for it and saw it something in it and developed him? It was all Brian Daboll, right? That's essentially what was going on behind the scenes, right?
I mean, I
So
assume. I mean, they're also, it was that behind the scenes you saw it, but also, GM. He had a big play in it. I was really surprised that they didn't even move on from Schoen at all.
Joe
If
Shane.
I, yeah, Joe Shane. But again,
I bring it up because they like for them to fire Dable and then not also, fire Joe Shane, that's essentially what you thought. If anybody deserved any credit for Jackson Dart developing the offense in the way that it was Brian Dable. So if you wanted to fire him for not performing, fine, but then you had to 100% have also fired Joe Shane. But apparently that's not what happened. I bring this up to talk about the Sean McDermott thing for them to fire Sean McDermott after what happened when Sean McDermott, Josh Allen, and maybe James Cook are the only real talents on that entire team. That team is bereft of talent elsewhere. All the good defensive players have left or they're aged out. All the good offensive, they have no wide receiver dominate, like no quality wide receivers to speak of. Their O line is mediocre at best.
yeah, I
And
mean,
and
their O line's not mediocre. I mean, their O line's is good. I mean,
but
Deion
for them
Dawkins on the
to
left is great. They have a lot of different talent on that offensive line. I hear what you're saying.
for them to have fired McDermott and promoted the general manager after what happened,
Yeah,
I mean, that much I don't get. Like, I got it. If they needed to fire Sean McDermott because, hey, you've come up short however many times, yada yada, whatever it is, we could disagree with it, but at least I'd get it. But not also
yeah.
promoting the GM.
There's a difference between coming up short and being screwed. Uh,
Well, we'll get to that.
and I think this is the biggest screw that they have ever came across.
I don't know if I'm 100% going to agree with this, but we'll get to that. Do you think do you think that Sean McDermott, like, do you think they believed that they were quote unquote screwed enough for them to be like, you know what? Guess what? Now you could leave. Now here's the door. That
I
had to have been premeditated.
I think the reason why is because there was a lot of chatter on social media, and not only that, but just how he performed in the media, and they just didn't want to. They didn't want to talk about it. They just said, let's move on. We need to move on from this because we don't want to have this discussion. Pretty much, I think that they just basically did the easy way out and just got rid of him, which honestly I think is going to be the hardest decision for that team because that team's chemistry was driven on his back.
Basically, I mean, he was a
What
really
are they
good
going to do? Go get a Mike McCarthy? That guy's a joke.
well, now I'm hearing rumors of Mike McDaniel, which is funny.
I think that turns into a circus if that happens.
Can you imagine if Bill Belichick goes there?
I would not recommend that.
I don't know. I don't know. It just it did not. I don't like the way that ended up with Sean McDermott either, and the promotion of the GM. Like it just sends the wrong message. Um,
Maybe Mike
I don't
Tomlin
know.
comes out and makes his way
Yeah,
over there.
we'll
I don't
see.
know.
Mike
The
Thomas said he's
the
going to
the
wait a year.
inaugural the inaugural season of the new stadium, Highmark Stadium is over and the new stadium is up. So maybe new times, new changes. I don't know, but
Maybe.
I don't like what happened. I don't like that they released him. He's a fantastic coach. Um, and he's gonna find a job very quickly.
I think so. I think so. He might take a year off himself after what happened. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um, so there we go. That's the relevant coaching news. Yeah, we got a really interesting show for you guys. Well, we're about to really dive in here. You ready to jump into controversial topic episode number one? Is the NFL
Yeah.
rigged, bad, officiating,
Yeah,
etc.?
I'm interested in derailing our fantasy football conversation for, at least the show. There's going to be a couple shows this offseason that we derail a little bit. You got to think though, a lot of this stuff is related to fantasy football too, because yeah, it's under the spotlight, really the prime spotlight when it's a playoff game. But this stuff hurts you in the regular season as well too. So if you don't watch all the games, this stuff happens all the time but is not as relevant as it is right now.
Okay.
And there are a lot of things that I do believe that need to be discussed and need to be looked at. And I feel like everybody's going to be on the same page at this point.
Yeah. So let's get into this. Let's start a bit more narrow focused and then we'll broaden out. So we all watched the Bills Broncos game, and I'll hold my opinion until after I hear Tommy's opinion.
Yeah,
So you
and just so you guys know, this ain't no Thanksgiving coin toss blunder of 1998 where the Lions win actually don't win the coin toss and the Steelers actually get and the Lions get the ball over the Steelers because screw you guys. Go
uh,
ahead.
all right, so I'm gonna ask you this because you said it earlier. You think the Bills got screwed?
Oh yeah.
Okay, I don't exactly have the same opinion, but we'll hold to my opinion. Why do you think the Bills got screwed?
Well, there was four calls that were off on the Bills that were called on the Bills or not called at all. The pass interference at the end of the fourth quarter. Now here's a takeaway, right? Gene Steratore basically made a comment, and there was a couple comments that he made, but one of the biggest things that actually brought to my light is, in my opinion, if there was no defender near him, he would have lost the ball when he hit the ground. The ruling would have been incomplete. Okay, that's hearsay, right? That's what if that happened.
It's hearsay, not allowed in the court of law.
Okay, that is not what happened, right? What happened was there was the defender there by all angles except for one angle that was being performed and shown on media. All the other angles showed Brandon Cooks coming down with the ball, fully down. And if the rule states if a defender if a defender and an offensive player and a defender basically come down with the ball at the same time, the offensive player wins the ball. Now, having said that the defender ripped it out after Brandon Cooks hit the ground, doesn't the rule also state that if you're downed by contact, right? So if the rule states that the offensive player wins the possession and they're downed by contact, doesn't that mean that that was a catch?
Under what you just said, yes, but
Okay, that's what,
I won't rebut you just yet.
and
Yeah.
that's exactly what happened.
I I could rebut you. Do you want me to rebut that now?
Go ahead.
Okay. On that specific play, because we could talk about other things that happened in that game, but on that specific play, uh, the question is, was was he a runner or was he in the process of completing the process of a catch? That is the question.
He was in the process of completing a catch.
Okay, hang on a second.
Good.
I just want to illustrate it. If you remember later on in the game between the Rams and the Bears, a similar, not similar, like a halfway similar play happened where Devontae Adams was catching the ball and then the ball got ripped out of
And
his hands.
I wanted to bring that up too because go ahead.
So Chris Collinsworth on the call mentioned something about Bills fans watching it, and it was like, okay, so Devontae gets the ball ripped out of his hands. Clearly, after Devontae had maintained the catch, became a runner, and then was down by contact, and then it was ripped out. This situation between the Bills and the Broncos, I'm not going to say I disagree with you, but I'm going to say it is not 100% clear that he became a runner and then was down. You could very easily make the argument that it was
But
that he was still in the process of making the catch. So there is no down by contact. Remember, if in the process of making the catch, you have to survive the fall. So if there was no simultaneous possession, he didn't survive the fall. I'm not saying I agree with that. I'm just saying I can see how that would be an argument.
okay, as Gene Steratore states, in my opinion, if there was no defender, but there was, if there was no defender near him and he lost the ball when he hit the ground, the ruling would be an incomplete pass.
Yep.
No shit, right?
Right.
Okay, that's not what happened. The ball, yes, maybe he came down and then basically his body gave out slightly, which gave the defender to pull the ball out. But if you look at the step-by-step process, he came down, he caught the ball with his chest. He had the ball on his chest. It did not bobble, it did not move. With the pressure when he came and hit the ground, He was on the ground. What happens if basically the defender didn't rip the ball out? That would have been a catch, right?
If the defender didn't rip
Didn't
the
rip the
ball
ball
out,
out, it would have been a catch, right?
if he would have caught it, it would have been a catch.
Because he
Right.
did catch it, right? He came down with the ball. He had the ball in his hands, right?
I could make the argument that he might not have had possession until after he was like on laying on the ground or something. I don't
Okay,
know,
but he was
but
but laying on the ground, Billy. Laying on the ground means with the defender being there, that's down by contact.
I'm not necessarily disagreeing. I'm saying this specific like this specific play, I can understand and
My
see how a different argument would go through.
Yeah, and my point, my this is my point. And you talk about, that call, and then you go and you just brought up the Rams, Devontae Adams, it's close to the same, but not the same,
It
right?
wasn't the same.
It's close to the same, but it's not the same. But the fact of the matter is, if that was the call, it has to be consistent. And in my opinion, on how it was stated, how Gene Steratore incorporated, in my opinion, if the defender was not there, there are other statements that he made that make it seem like they just call the play as is and how they decide as it goes because it is a fast game, right? It's a fast-paced game, this whole thing. My problem with the whole thing, and this is to prove a point here, that was in overtime. Doesn't matter if it was in overtime or the first quarter. It was a winner go home scenario. It was the last game of the season for one of those teams. We have all this technology. Now they basically have the technology of basically putting the ball on the ground and measuring it out without, basically, they cut salaries of people to run out the chains, right? Now they have the artificial chain gang, right? Why couldn't they just look at the tape? My problem with this whole thing is Sean McDermott basically went like this: timeout
Right.
right before they ran a play.
Right. I know what you're getting at.
The referees came up to him. He asked them to look at the tape. They said no, and then they
Right.
moved on.
Right. And then if you might not have seen this. So the statement from, I forget who it was, the NFL rep or whatever it was, the referee rep, said afterward that it was one of those plays that they went to, it was like one of those fast replay reviews that's called from the booth, like, hey, whatever. But I, this, you are 100% right. We would not even really be having this conversation if they had done what they do in every game, even during the regular season, which is like, hey, stop, stop the game. The referee will come out. Hey, after replay assist, it's determined that the catch went through the interception goes through, the receiver never maintained. Even if you disagree with the call, it would have been more
And
palatable,
that's and
right?
that's where I have a problem with the NFL right now. There was not one higher up person, that one higher up referee that's sitting in New York to
Yeah, they
say,
fumbled this.
we have to look at this. No, they made the decision not to look at it
I,
and to move on. Having said that, after that interception happened, that's when the two pass interferences happened.
yeah.
They have to be consistent with pass interferences.
All
You
right.
cannot give a team a win, especially in this. And this happened for the past couple of years with the Chiefs,
Oh,
with
well, this is gonna be
Mr.
fun.
Sometimes Tom Brady driving down the field. This happened so many times with those individuals that I'm just getting sick of the non-calls and then the calls for the play favoritism kind of player that the NFL wants to see these specific players in the big dance.
All right. So then this is where you and I are gonna have now we're gonna have some major disagreements. Okay. So I can't even like how many different fires do I have to put out now?
And karma kicks in. Karma kicks in when on not the second to last play, because that's another controversy in itself, but the last play when Bo Nix goes to kneel the ball down, he breaks his foot
He
and
broke
he's
his
out.
foot before that.
No, watch the tape.
No,
He
they
broke.
he
No, watch the tape. He breaks his foot. It's
this
called
is
karma. He
that's
break
not what
his
happened.
he breaks his foot, and now the Broncos are giving a game to the Patriots to make it to the Super Bowl.
By the way, I don't. It's
And
not a foregone conclusion that
and
the Broncos don't lose that game.
uh,
The Patriots didn't even impress me.
Jarrett Stidham is going to throw 35 interceptions.
I,
You thought that Stroud's game was bad. Just
I don't
wait.
know. I don't think anybody could play worse than Stroud.
Well,
Okay.
he could have basically threw the ball. He basically snapped the ball, threw it on the ground every single time. He would have had a better QBR.
All right. So I want Tommy to answer this question. So we're gonna open the narrow just a little bit here. All right, Tommy. So I asked you if you thought the Bills got screwed through bad officiating. Your opinion is that they did. Here's a better question. Why did they get screwed? In your opinion, why did that happen?
So the funny thing is, literally right after all of that happened, the media basically already put together the last, what, 7 years of Josh Allen losing the playoff and his media conferences with the media. It just sounds like a narrative. Just letting a guy just like be not happy with not being able to win the big game and move on to the next round.
All right.
It sounds like a guy that they're trying to punish, and I just don't understand it.
You're being vague. You're being vague. What is the motivation to not have the Bills win that game from the NFL's perspective? What's their motivation?
Just to keep the narrative. I don't know, just to keep the
To keep a
uh
narrative? That's
keep the Chicago Cubs not winning a World Series for 100 years narrative.
But they eventually won. Like it's just
Yeah,
like
after 100 years.
you find it more you find it more likely that there is some conspiracies going on, not for money, which we didn't even get into. We'll get to that in a minute, but we're talking just to keep narratives alive. Oh, we want it this way for a narrative. That's what you're saying. You're telling me the narrative would not have been better if the Bills finally broke through and everybody's got a team to root for, because you know the Bills would have been fan favorites going
No,
into the Super
100%.
Bowl.
Yeah, I mean,
Like,
I'm a Giants fan. I was rooting for them,
right.
and
That
I've
doesn't
been every single year because the Giants stink.
well, we all were rooting for them. You're telling me that that's not a more likely scenario? Can I let me defend you via nonsense that I heard online, okay? Because this is stuff that we've heard from people who we know in our own circle of friends too, okay? And there's other games that I could point to. When you say the NFL is rigged, there is a varying sense of who is saying that sentence and what they mean. For example, I don't think you or anybody that we know who has half a brain would say, yeah, the NFL scripts every single game. They know how it's going to end, and there's a vast conspiracy. There's a gigantic hand on every single game all the time. I would say, and I don't want to put words in your mouth. That's not what you're saying.
No,
You would not be saying that because there's a lot of people online who do think that. So let's erase that. I think when people do say the NFL is ranked, they kind of say it colloquially, which is more like what you're saying. Like when they want to, occasionally they're putting the hand of power on something to help make a team win or lose for X, Y, or Z reasons.
or there could be money involved.
Well, let's get to the money thing. Okay. So this is what
Hey,
I, yeah.
Vegas. Oh,
Yeah.
okay, yeah. Yeah, there's $50 billion that just got put on the Bills to win. Yeah, it's an incomplete pass. Um, okay. Okay, sounds good. Bye.
Yeah. Let me get to that now. And I'm setting this up to actually play the devil's advocate for my own opinion. Okay. So this is what I heard this week. So over 70% of all of the money went on the Bills to win the game. And right before the game, and basically the couple of days leading into the game, the Broncos were actually favored. About a week and a half before that, they actually set the Bills to be favored. So going into the game, the Broncos were favored. So 70 more than 70% of the betting money was on the Bills. And I just want to mention this is like a thing that you and I both notice. People love betting on the underdogs because you can win more money. People like the idea that you have better odds than 1-to-1 odds. But the thing is, Vegas loves when you do that because the favorites win. Like that, like they love winning that money. So a lot of people are much more hyper aware when the underdog, quote unquote, looks like they're going to win. And then right at the end, the favorite wins, and then Vegas makes all this money. This happens all the time. It happened with a lot of other games that we saw. And every time that it happened, or every time that they didn't meet the point threshold, it was always like NFL is rigged. Every single comment that you look on a YouTube or a social media thing, NFL is rigged, NFL is rigged, NFL had something to do with this. This is asinine. Do you have any idea? You played high school, I played in college. Like the amount of effort that would be needed, like the
Yeah,
amount of scrutiny, like to be able to go through with something like that was
yeah. I
well, Tommy,
mean,
let me ask you this.
literally the entire league would have to know that, there's a script and, it would be almost impossible to not allow or not to show the cards when you have 80,000 people in the stands. I get it. I do think that though there are certain individuals that do hold high standards that sh won't say shave points, but make things happen a certain way sometimes.
This is not the NBA. This is not college basketball. The amount of people involved, the amount of scrutiny, the amount of in-depth look that we have at everything, there's almost no way that you could get away with anything like this. There's no way. I find it so much more likely that the officials just completely fumbled how they handled that situation. Because again, I could make the argument to you that, yeah, it was an interception, but the fact that they didn't explain it causes everyone to be like, NFL's rigged. Because I could just as easily say to you, if the NFL was so rigged, why didn't they call that holding on that offensive player in the end zone when the Bills had the ball on their way to going? Like you could have just as easily called that. The game would have been over. It would have been a safety. If they wanted to end it and get Vegas all that money, they wouldn't have even had to have all this drama. They could have just did that.
Yeah,
But
I don't know.
I'm just saying, like, for you guys to say the NFL, like, it's such a lazy parrot way to say things. NFL is rigged after something that you don't like happens on a call that you don't like. You want to know how many times I wanted to say the NFL was rigged after every baloney crap that used to happen with the Patriots for years? Jesse James catching the ball at the 1 yard line and scoring a touchdown. Nope, it's a fumble. It's not, or it's not a catch. Get out of here. Or every other stupid crap that happened, tuck rule and this and that. Like I never thought the NFL was rigged. What I thought was happening was a litany of things in totality, which sucked essentially for people who didn't like watching what they were seeing. And it's just a way for you to process that information. Tommy, here's a good example for you. I forget which game it was. It was the Raiders, I think, versus the Browns. Okay. The Browns had won the game. It was clear. But the spread on the game, I'm going to get the numbers wrong, but you guys all know what I'm talking about. The spread on the game was something like 9.5 points for the Browns, and the Browns were up by 10, and the Raiders had the ball with like 30 seconds left, and it wasn't gonna they were like at the 50-yard line, and so Pete Carroll, instead of just ending the game, decided I'm gonna kick a field goal with no chance of winning to essentially not let the Browns win by the over, and he did it at the last second. The entire internet was obsessed. NFL is rigged. NFL is rigged. NFL is rigged. This is, like with no knowledge of anything about why they might have done that. Pete Carroll just being like, screw it. We'll kick a field goal. I want you to explain to me, because I know you're not like these internet people or whatever, but what is the thought
That game was
process?
played in Vegas too, right?
Right. But what is the thought
It's just a
process
tap on the shoulder.
to who? Pete Carroll himself?
Hey, Pete, got to kick this ball.
Yeah, well, you're being facetious, but people will take you seriously with what you're saying right now.
I know. I think there are times though where, there's a lot of money now invested into sports. It wasn't like this it wasn't like this 10 years ago. You had your Italian guy that basically was your bookie that basically took some money and then, just, got some money here, got some money there. That's how it was, right? Now it's different.
I'm
You know,
so
you got the
happy we're
sports
bringing this up.
you got the sports books, you still got your Italian guy, because people who can't, move on to the sports books don't understand technology. But you have the sports books and everything is tracked. And things are a little bit more easier for maybe these referees to make a decision, and they may not be invested into some of these over unders or whatever it is, but they may have somebody on the side that may have a investment into it. I just feel like that is potentially something that is happening
Then why didn't they call the holding and end the game in the end zone?
because it can't be fully blatantly obvious.
No, it wasn't obvious. If they would have, it was that guy,
Because
that
there's
dude held in
because
the end
Billy, there's
zone.
this because there's holding on every single play. You and I
Not like
both
that.
know this. We both know that there's holding on every single play, whether it's offensive, defensive, whatever the thing is. And but my point with that holding on every single play is you got to be consistent. You have to be
Well,
consistent. You can't just pick and choose what you're going to call when you're going to call it. And it can't be. And here's the thing, in overtime, you got to let the guys play. They just played for 3 hours, 3+ hours. You got to let them play. Even if it's just like hand slapping, little ticky tack stuff, you can't call that.
all right. Well,
You know, if a guy's being tackled to the ground, well, okay, that's pass interference. I've seen plenty of pass interferences where a guy got hit before and there was no call on it.
I thought one of the pass interferences was bad and one of them was decent, but I don't know. I just want to get you on. I just want to
The
get you.
last one, the last call for pass interference was semi-true. But again, you can't call that if you're not calling it on the other side.
Well, maybe again, like maybe, maybe not. And but
I've seen wait. And here's the thing though, like when things slow down a little bit, I've seen last minute flags just pop up. We've all seen it.
all right, let me make sure I just get your opinion 100%. You think that they screwed up the calls. I think that the calls are debate. I think at least the main one is 100% debatable. But we both are in agreement that we just didn't like how they didn't stop the game for that one call,
It's
the
yeah,
one catch.
that's a
We
must.
both agree on that. But I just want to make sure I get you on record. You think that the reason they screwed those up is it your reason conspiratorial, or do you think like me, like, hey, they I don't think they necessarily messed up the calls, and even if they did, they could fumble calls. You think that you're part of
I think there's a conspiracy
you
behind
think
it,
that there's a
honestly.
conspiracy, and your reason is for the betting or because of the narrative thing that you said?
I think it's more so money, to be honest. I think there's a lot of money invested and there was something there it just was happening. It just led that way.
In your opinion, then, okay, how what's
Let me
going
ask
on
you,
behind the conspiracy?
who was the better team that game?
I want to say the Bills, but they turned the ball over
Okay.
17 times. Like,
Okay. He turned the ball over an astronomical amount of times, but they played fairly good defense, but got turnovers, and they still were in the game.
right.
Offensively, the Broncos were not that good. They made some decent plays, but they were not that good. And then literally last play of the game, you know, your quarterback of the season gets hurt. So now, and I know you don't believe in karma, but now here you go, right? NFL, congratulations. You just placed the team in the Super Bowl and they're just going to have to coast into next game. That's exactly what happened. Now you have a sham of a AFC championship. That's
I mean,
exactly what it is.
okay. I mean, we've had calls being messed up before. You had the however many years
Yeah,
ago
but you
now,
know what?
six
Like
years ago in the NFC
now,
Championship game, the
but
Saints.
if you look back now at the scenario, if you look back now at the scenario, you got a sham of a AFC championship.
It's not what they would have wanted, which is why it's like I don't get what the motivation is. If you're just saying it's the money, fine.
Because
I'm not.
nobody knew that that Nix was gonna break his ankle or something like that. You know, they wanted
Well,
there should have been a narrative. Two guys drafted in the same draft class
I'm not about to put.
make it to the AFC Championship.
I'm not
One of
about
them
to.
will make it to the Super Bowl.
I'm not about to debate philosophically whether karma exists. We're not getting into that. But what I will say is this is me asking you to explain the conspiracy. Who specifically told who and what did they say? What did they say? They went to the head referee and they said, "Hey, if it's close, make
How do
sure
I
that the
know specifically who told who?
you're calling out a conspiracy.
Yeah, but
Then
I mean,
ex
it's not like I'm Candace Owens doing a deep dive into what's happening in the world. Come on. I'm just reading through the lines. I'm looking through all this stuff. I'm trying to see what you know, it's not just me. There's other people. There's a lot. I probably, you know, we're on this side of it right now looking at it. The only people that are actually like happy about it and whatever are Bronco fans. I was going back and forth with a Bronco fan on Facebook. Not fun. I wasn't forcefully doing
all
it.
going back and forth on Facebook. That always ends well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it ends well. But you know, I was speaking the truth and I was stating what happened. And I'm just telling you, just playing football and not only that, but watching football, like I got you know, me myself and my family, we watch football whenever it's on. And watching that game, it was disgusting. That
I
was disgusting.
It was the fact that they didn't explain it made it worse. And let me say something else. Let me say something else about this that I know is not going to change your mind, but let's just actually throw some numbers on it, okay? People say this stuff when it's on things that everybody sees. Everybody was watching this game, and the Bills were big fan favorites. And the fact that, like I said, people tend to bet a lot more on underdogs because they think they could win more money. It's, everybody wants to be a millionaire and the blah, 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 blah. We could get into the philosophy of all that stuff. Okay. What if I were to show you numbers that said, okay, great. This is a scenario where, quote unquote, the Bills got screwed and therefore Vegas made a lot of money. I could show you over the course of time, if we take in totality just NFL games, the manner in which there's so often that doesn't happen on other games that people make a lot of money on. It's just we as humans remember the hits and we forget the misses. Y'all forget all the times that Vegas did not win X amount of money or that the betting was more even or whatever it was and it didn't work out the way. But y'all remember this one because they were people that people were excited about. It seemed like they fumbled something, plus the fact that Vegas made money. Like it's very, I can understand a conspiratorial mind putting two and two together there. But if you look in totality, that so isn't the case.
It my big thing is the most, we live in a world of technology now. It's literally, everything we utilize is based off of technology. This is we don't and unfortunately, the NFL refs during that game were living in the Stone Age.
And there's other games that they were like literally on point for. But the thing is, you just never forget that. Or you never remember that. It's like
My
offensive
point,
linemen.
my
You
point,
never remember when they do their job well.
my point is that maybe if that's the problem and that's the one of the biggest games of the NFL season right there, that where there was a big mistake. I think the NFL needs to go back and they need to get some of these 80-year-old refs out and bring in people that actually can perform and be able to keep up with everything. And not only that, not, create their own rules as the game goes on, follow the rule book and don't have a bias on specific teams and players.
I don't think they had a bias. I
I think in certain games there are certain biases, and I do believe that these referees literally have to be middle of the pack people. Like my profession is roofing, and I deal with and let's just put this out there. I deal with homeowners. I deal with also insurance companies, and I also deal with adjusters. And I'm not sure if you're going to understand this, and nobody else is probably going to understand this, but when an independent adjuster comes out to a property, they have zero bias to favor the homeowner or the insurance carrier. The referees are paid by the NFL, but they also need to have a non-bias from the NFL to a team. They need to go out there and to perform of what the rule book, big, thick rule book, states. There are only technically 15 to 20 rules that necessarily need to be followed every
That's
single
15
game.
and 20. Okay.
15 to 20
I
rules. Because how many there they blow the whistle, offsides. They blow the whistle, false start. They blow the whistle, illegal formation. They blow the whistle, pass interference. How many other ones outside of maybe 15 or 20 do you actually hear on a regular basis?
I
Keep it
listen,
simple. It's
when I
the
mean
KISS model. The KISS
I,
model. Keep it simple, stupid. Let's
I don't
go.
I don't know. Listen, you could slice this up. You could slice this up any way that you want to. I could present the numbers in totality to be like, this is not how the money works in Vegas. Okay. You guys could hear what I'm saying and then just be like, no, I'm reading for the man or something. I'm sure people in our audience will say that. Fine. Okay. Whatever other conspiracy you have to look at it between the terms of, I'll play devil's advocate. What's their motivation? Okay. I could discount everything from the financial aspect. So then you have to come at me with something else. And so, case in point, let's turn the clock a little bit and let's talk about the Chiefs. Okay. So this was not a good year for the Chiefs. So let's not even get into that. Okay. Mahomes and everything else. But we had an umpteen amount of arguments last year with and without other people and also people in our circle and whatever about the whole Chiefs situation. Okay. And to this day, my argument is the same way that I started earlier, which is to you, I want somebody to explain to me, like I'm 5 years old, what would possibly be the NFL's motivation to favoring the Chiefs and somehow putting the thumb on the scale to be like the refs to help them out? You guys have not been able to accurately explain that to me.
Okay, so this is a stat. I need 2025 stats, but this is a stat as of November 2024 for Patrick Mahomes. He's at that point in time, he threw 73 regular season interceptions. Guess how many interceptions were actually called back that were also potentially pick sixes?
This is not, that's not what I asked you.
I don't care. Guess.
I don't know, man. You're going to say a lot, right?
17, the highest ever.
Okay. So
The
what does
highest
that
since
mean?
2018. Okay. That means that there is a new Tom Brady in town, new sheriff in town
Oh, stop it.
that they need to basically just, you know, shoulder shrug, give him a nice deep tissue massage every single weekend. I just feel
Why?
that
Why? Why?
and here's a point right here. Every dynasty, every favorite has to have an underdog comeback story, right? Every single one. That is the Kansas City Chiefs, maybe not next year, but the following year. They every team has to go down and has to have an injury. Like big name guy. You gotta let some of these other guys get back into the mix so it doesn't look like Kansas City Chief makes the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chief makes the Super Bowl. Kansas City Chief makes the NFC AFC Championship every single year back to back to back. There is actually a stat for the past 15 or 16 years. Do you know the consistency ratio of the Patriots and the Chiefs? You know that they've been in the AFC between those two teams and including the New York Jets. Between those three teams, they've been in the AFC Championship for the past 15 or 16 years, whatever it was, consistently.
Yeah, I understand.
Okay. So how is that possible to not think that something is just force fed to you?
I
And
can,
I'm
I,
not, and
but
I don't,
I can argue it. The
and
question
I,
I'm asking you is why would they be doing that? Why?
because there is, everybody needs a villain. There needs to be a villain out there. There just can't be go out there and play the game and the best team wins.
You're saying
Um,
like they're Ric Flairing it. They're like, okay, we're gonna create this villain for y'all to hate, and
ooh, yeah,
you'll pay money to go see people try to go beat the villain. That's what you're saying.
that's how it seems every single Super Bowl. Some of these Super Bowls sometimes were unwatchable when you have the same team going in there.
Well, you said it yourself. If it's unwatchable, then financially, which is their number one priority, is being undercut if it's the same two teams that keep showing up. So that would undercut the whole argument in and of itself, would it not?
Let's just look at the viewing ratio. I do know that whenever it was the same teams going back to back to back, yes, a fan base can grow over time, but I do believe that the numbers dissipate when those teams are not in there, and they excel when there's new blood in there.
Right. Let me give a call back to any of our listeners. So when we discussed this about a year ago with one of our
Tyler,
with Tyler, one of our guest speakers, um, his argument was entirely based on Taylor Swift. And I remember being completely aggravated listening to that because I remember looking at stats about it and like the people who are Taylor Swift fans couldn't care less. Like they weren't interested in football anyway, and or it might have been a wife who was like halfway like, oh, all right, I'll watch the TV that my husband is already watching. Like it was never as if it actually mattered whatever other people who were the fans of Taylor Swift that were actually watching or not. It wasn't moving the needle. If anything, what it was doing was aggravating the people who were already watching because it was like every 2 seconds you flick away to Taylor Swift because you knew that it was such a in their mind it was such a money grab. Ooh, we showed Taylor Swift. Like it turned off people uh after enough time. And then a lot of people who we know especially too were like, well, they're not even really dating. It's just a thing. And they of course they were dating. Of course they were. By the way, never heard an apology from everybody who said that it was just a ploy, that they weren't actually dating. Nobody ever apologized for that. Nobody
I
ever said
mean,
nobody ever said that wasn't happening.
yeah, but I mean, who really cares to apologize that heavily? I don't know. And who's they really going to take the apology? Who cares? I mean, it could be still a little fraudulent marriage that's about to happen, and then they get divorced, and then he goes back to his ways, and she goes back to her ways. She'll make a little album, a new album off of her next boyfriend.
What I what I'm saying is that I think people sometimes could take a chill pill and be like, maybe the things that you are not liking can include all these things and not also include somehow the NFL is doing something to help this team. So case in point, Tommy, this is the point I want to make to you. Whether it's the Bills game, whether it's things that happen with the Chiefs, and this is the mini fight that I got into with Tyler, which is like Tyler brought up a bunch of plays that had happened. And I said to Tyler, I could go into each one of those plays and tell you how each one of them was not baloney, given whatever the NFL's rules are. And I remember telling him at the beginning, I like all the special treatment that you guys think Mahomes gets. I don't like it, but not because Mahomes gets it, but because every quarterback gets that special treatment that I think is baloney. It's not the football that I grew up with. But that's
Uh,
not unique to Mahomes. Burrow gets stuff that Mahomes would never even dream of. So I'm saying that like you have to be every one of the calls that you have an issue with, I'll take a look at it and I'll tell you if I agree with it or I'll disagree with it. And I'll be real about it. I told you, Tommy, I didn't like one of the pass interference calls, but on the play that
I
you and
got
I,
I got a question for you.
yeah,
If that was Devontae Adams, not Brandon Cooks, going up for the ball, catching that ball and got it ripped out from his hands, what would have been the call?
it it's just Devontae
What
Adams in the exact same thing.
same thing. What would have been the call?
They would have called it an interception. They would have called it
Mm,
an interception. You're saying because it was a no-name receiver, they like assumed
I
he
mean,
didn't
Brandon
catch it.
Cooks is not a typically a no-name receiver, but I will say, he's an aged guy that maybe they forgot who he was.
So you're okay. This is a fair point too. I've heard this from too. Like it matters who the players are involved. Like for example, there are calls that
If it was back in the day, Rob Gronkowski going down and he lost the ball because the linebacker caught the ball or ripped the ball from him, who would have got that call?
okay, I understand the lodge. I understand the argument you're making. I get it. That there's people who would have made the call, like people who
There's also been times where even referees saying you don't get that call specifically
I
to a
know the one
player.
you're talking about. That's the Cam Newton thing, and then I thought it was
You don't get that call.
I thought it was
That
proven that Ed Hockley never said that to him. That's been
that
proven.
I, I don't know how proven that was, but I'll tell you something right now. When that comes out and that's being blatant, that goes back to the fact of what I said earlier. Referees cannot pick and choose who they make these calls for. They cannot do so.
But again,
It
you don't
has to
know
be
that that's
based on the rule
happening.
system. And we all know about this. Anybody that watches football knows about the welcome to the NFL hits, right? Well, what if Tom Brady got smacked in the backfield? But, let's just put it out there like, um, rookie A, Jackson Dart gets the same exact hit and he throws the ball, launches the ball down the field. And he gets in both of them launch the ball down the field and they both get intercepted. But based on the hit, who's going to get that call?
Uh, okay.
I'm just saying.
I got it, but okay, so this is the NBA argument that it's like, if I'm not
When
gonna I don't
LeBron
say a
James,
name because it's gonna make it into a thing. It's
no, it's fine. When LeBron James basically doesn't dribble the ball and just takes a layup down the court, and they call it a Euro step.
right, or players that would otherwise get a foul that wouldn't because it's like in their
You don't get
mind.
that call.
No, it's not. You don't get that call. I've heard it from the other side, which is like, listen, we know that clearly this is a very good player. He probably would have made this basket if he wasn't interfered with. So therefore, I'm not saying I agree with that logic altogether either, but I understand where that's coming from. So no, I'm going to answer the question differently for the NFL. If that exact play happened in the exact thing, I don't think it would have mattered whose name was on the back of that. I do think that there's no way around it. They should have reviewed it, whether you liked it or not. They should have done the full review, and that's what created them. You and I have no disagreement there.
Yeah.
That's where they fumbled this. And that referee, the guy, not because he messed the call up, but because he didn't handle it right, I think he should lose his job because of that.
Oh,
So,
out of anybody that should have lost their job, it's the referee.
yeah,
Sean McDermott should have never he should have never lost his job. And like I said, going back to everything, he lost his job because he spoke up.
clearly he might have lost his job if they lost in the Super Bowl. Like, I mean, we don't know that.
I don't think
We don't
so.
know what they were doing. And they promoted the GM who's done nothing for them. So I mean, I don't know. It depends on like what let me ask you this, okay? Just on the financial side, okay? Not this not last year's Super Bowl, okay? The Chiefs got completely shellacked by the Philadelphia Eagles, okay? Most of the money in that game was on the Eagles. Most of the money, and it wasn't close, okay? So there's an example and they got shellacked. It wasn't even close. So there's an example where Vegas did not do well. Okay.
There's an example when the Giants beat the Patriots back, in both Super Bowls.
Yeah. I'm just saying that
That's what
people,
but that's what I'm saying. Is there is times where you cannot just be so blatant about it and so, obvious about it.
you don't think that it's more likely that so you're saying every time that it happens, it's because they wanted to win money. And every time that it doesn't happen, it's them going, we can't be blatant. You can't just say it's just how the dice falls. You
It
think,
just you can't say, they can't win every single time, but they can win most of the time.
so you think every time, come on, this is too far, don't you think?
We could go down a really, really deep rabbit hole, but again, I do believe that, I don't think it's all the time. It can't be all the time, but I'm just saying there has to be an understanding that there is other entities involved with this. And especially with what's going on in the world now in the sports world with sports betting. And not only that, in states where you actually can't technically have a sports book, but now you have Kalshi and all these other prediction
Huh.
betting. Everybody is doing it now. And those Kalshi and those other ones, yeah, it says you're betting against each other or predicting against each other, but there's money involved. There's money being given on both ends. Where do those people lose? When you lose your bet, where does it go? It goes to the house. Come on.
Right, but they obviously the house always wins. It's the same reason why, they pay you 1-to-1 on red and black, but the odds of you getting red and black are not 50-50. It's the same thing. But to suggest that somehow, these houses are calling up, like you guys don't understand from the, like, it would be such a massive, massive thing for them to do what
The
it is
thing
that
is,
people are
it can
suggesting.
never because it never could come out because then nobody would watch sports ever again.
Well, apparently, well, I wanted to ask your opinion
And I
about
and
this.
I and honestly, it's tough to believe this because we love fantasy football. We love football
Yes,
itself. It's tough
I'm
to
glad you
believe
brought this
this.
up.
Um, but you know what? And you got to have hope that it's not true. But sometimes, especially when you're sitting on this side watching it, and sometimes you could say you could watch it better. You could watch a game better sitting at home than you actually will in the stands. You could read through the lines a little bit better and understand who's doing their job and who's not doing their job. And there's a lot of people these days that are not doing their job. And if it's not related to money, right? If Vegas is not calling up stuff like that, it's related to the referees not being able to do their job anymore. And you got to find somebody that actually could do their job.
Right. That much we agree on. If somebody's incompetent, having nothing to do with
When you have a
conspiratorial, then yes.
65, 70, 80-year-old guy standing on the field, holding the chains or running up and down the field, getting run over by a 22-year-old guy, that is not what you need on the field. Again, you need people, number one, that have zero bias, that love the game, and that will swear on the NFL Bible that they will make sure that they will not screw things up. And when they do, they'll own their mistake and they won't let it happen again.
Yeah, there's so many aspects to this. One thing I wanted to ask you is I want to also do a show in this off season, kind of alluding to some of the stuff we're talking about why the NFL is better than the NBA. And like we can, and this
Because people watch the NFL.
Yeah, that. But part of it is this whole betting thing. I can't watch the NBA. It's been years, and I knew what was going on beforehand. Like I can't watch the NBA anymore and think that anything's real. Load management, along with not caring, and like it's not like it's just not. You can't watch it anymore.
Yeah.
So but that's what I'm saying. I'm sort of throwing that argument back at you with the NFL is that if you or anybody that we know, because there are people who are way more over the top than you and people who we know, uh, if you actually believe that, then why are you watching? You know,
Because I love the sport. Because I love the sport. I mean, as much as things sometimes are unwatchable, it's Sunday. I want to watch football. When the Super Bowl ends and the off season happens, it's Saturday or Sunday, and I may be watching the AFL. Who knows? Or the UFL, whatever they call it these days. But I cannot wait for preseason football to start. I'm the guy that sits there and watches preseason football, even though it is the worst thing ever. Um, it is the worst thing ever, but it is the greatest thing for you to watch when something you've been waiting for an entire offseason is back. And not only that, but that's what makes you a better fantasy football manager. You can see these players that are going to pop off late in the season and make some, superstar opportunities to throw on your roster.
Yeah. Well, you and I could sit and argue all day about this. I would say you are nowhere near as far along as some of the crazy people online. I mean, you've seen it, Tommy. Like sometimes there'll just be a play that goes the wrong way, and the first comment will be NFL is rigged. Like you guys could get over that. I mean, you're nowhere near those people, so I'm not accusing you of that.
No,
I'm
because I'm
saying,
not just sitting here and the
like,
entire show we're saying the NFL is rigged, the NFL is rigged, the NFL is rigged.
I,
It is, I don't believe it is. I believe there's a lot of flaws. And when you're that big and you're that big and bright of a name, you have to be the biggest and the best. And if
look,
you're not the biggest and the best, you're going to your true colors, your these little faults are going to look like massive, massive failures. And you need, again, going back to it, the NFL needs to get deep in the weeds
I agree
with
with this.
making sure they have the right people calling the games and they are not back in the mafia zone of, well, we're just going to roll with it and see what happens.
No, I agree with that. 100 that
There's
much
a
you and
rule
I agree
book
with.
for a reason. In law enforcement, there are policies and procedures, and you follow those policies and procedures. And when you deviate around those policies and procedures, you get in trouble.
Do you
These
think
referees are making over $200,000 a year as part-time jobs.
as far as
Make it a full-time job.
I 100% agree with that. In your opinion, then, I just want to make sure just to sum up the whole thing of the whole conversation we had. In your opinion, the conspiracy in your eyes goes as far as, hey, there's certain occasions where NFL execs might say something to certain referees if the time is right to put the hand on power. That's as far as you're going. That's all
Mhm.
you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. I would
And
say,
Roger Goodell, if you're listening to this podcast, which I really hope you are, if you want to go young and find the right people to do so, give me a call. I'm interested.
yeah, I would say that I respectfully disagree with you. I don't think that's happening at
I will
all.
give up fantasy football to make the integrity of the football field better.
Great. I'm sure there's people who we know that would be very happy
Yes.
to hear that be the case. I'm respectfully disagreeing with you. I don't think that's happening at all. I find it so much more likely that there's just times where things get screwed up and or look, just answer me this philosophically, okay? The thing that I said to you that we as humans, we remember the hits and we forget the misses. You don't think that it's more likely that we're just having cognitive dissonance on the things that we notice and the things we don't notice?
Um, I think we're just getting older and we're noticing things a little bit more,
Or you? I mean,
yeah,
I, I
because we're spending the time to actually analyze things and read through the lines.
okay. I don't know. Look, I want to I want to close by saying something about just about my own consistency. Okay. Um, everybody who knows me like I've had a major problem with it's not so much the Patriots. It was I had a problem with Tom Brady for as long as I don't think he's as good as let's just say I don't think he's the greatest of all time. We could have a whole other argument about that. I'll leave it there. I won't say how not good per se or whatever I don't think he is. Okay. Case in point, just everything that I disliked about the situation. It is tantamount to what we're talking about today is the 2018 AFC Championship game when Brady was on the Patriots at the Kansas City Chiefs and Mahomes. Okay. This is the stuff that I hate. Okay. Mahomes is going in there with no defense and a good offense, and Brady's going in there with a great offense and a good defense. So back and forth game, really, really amazing game. Okay. At the end of the game, people forget, okay, this is Tom Brady now, or is the clutchest guy. He throws a pick six to lose the game in overtime or whatever it is at the end of the game. The clutchest guy ever. He throws a pick six, but D Ford lines up offsides. Now, I want to point this out. Somebody who played football, this is the Andy Reid line from back then. When somebody lines up offsides, they don't flag them right away, especially not back then. They give a warning. Andy Reid and D Ford never got a warning once about that. But they decided in that moment on a pick six that Tom Brady loses the game that he caused to throw that flag in that thing. And at the time, I was incorrigible. I like nobody could talk to me. It was the
And
worst thing
Billy,
I've ever seen in the whole wide world.
and this is why I say you don't get those calls. You let the game play, and then you get the call. The referees decide on when they want to throw that flag. That is not the right way to play football.
Okay, and this is I want to say something to everybody listening. At the time, okay, if I had been so
When
inclined,
that and
wait, let me
no,
finish it.
let me just say this. When that happened, and the ball was snapped, throw the flag. The play is over.
Yeah, they didn't throw it until later.
That's what I'm saying.
So at the time, I was at the most vulnerable of wanting to say the NFL is rigged, the NFL is rigged. Okay. But I remember finding out after, and I remember thinking about it and about how coaches are, and I played or whatever. I had not known that Bill Belichick, being the genius coach that he is, was telling the referees in that drive leading up to it, hey, watch out for it, watch out. Like, if you're, if you're priming the refs to do something, Sean Payton does this stuff a lot too, which did happen in the Bills game.
Hmm.
If you're telling a ref to do something and then it happens right in his face, right when it happens, when you say it's going to happen, then it is what it is. And D Ford was offsides, and it was a penalty that was called, and that was the end of the thing. I am telling you guys, for who don't know, who aren't so ingrained in the X's and O's of football, that happens more than you guys think, way more. And so I'm willing to bet that, forgetting the play that Tommy and I both had different problems with, some of the pass interference calls or some of this or some of that, I'm telling you that those coaches are pointing out, hey, Tre'Davious White on this or whoever it, like they're calling that out. And when it happens in front of them, it's a double down. Now, Tommy, I know you and I both have a problem with everything in their mother being called a pass interference, but like you said, it has to be called evenly. But
Hmm.
maybe one of the coaches is being more vocal about a certain thing than another one, and maybe Sean McDermott is not more vocal about certain things with his own receivers.
But it
Maybe.
doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who's vocal, who's not vocal. That's the reason why you need referees to be on the same page and to be unison and call plays as they should together. There should literally be the most same consistency because you expect AFC Championship A to be called the same way as NFC Championship A.
I understand that, Tommy. I'm saying that some of the reasons that they're not is the NFL is rigged. I think incompetency slash other things, like I said about the coaches, is a more likely scenario. So you and I can have a gentleman's
Yeah,
disagreement about that. But anyway, we could talk about that forever and ever.
there we go.
We hope you guys enjoyed that discussion. By the way, just want to give a big shout out. We're recording this today, and we're going to be improving our video and our quality and our graphics and everything. We are recording this today on on my new computer situation setup, and a big shout out to our friend Rob at All Star Computing. We're going to put his details in the our little comments on all of our social media stuff. You guys need to check him out if all of your computer needs in
Thanks,
the
Rob.
New Jersey area, All Star Computing. And definitely the worst
Hey,
segue in the world coming from horror into that. But yeah. But anyway, that's our show for today. Thank you guys for being with us. We'll see about what we're going to do. Actually, next week
yeah,
we're gonna take a week off next week. We'll be coming back strong the week after. Closing thoughts, Mr. Lang?
yeah, we truly appreciate everybody that takes the time to watch our videos. We really hope everybody watches this video in full, and all the rest of them. But if you could please like, share, and subscribe, we truly appreciate it.
Yes, we do. Thank you very much, everybody.